Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I finally get to interview somebody who's been with us for a while, and I can't wait for you to experience her story. This is Teresa Marino. Teresa, thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you, Anna. I'm happy to be here with you.
Awesome. So I have some questions for you about your experience with the Interactive Storytelling Accelerator, but also I'm really looking forward to digging into your interactive story with you. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So first off, though, before you got started with us, tell me about what you were doing, what life was like.
So before I got started with you, I was slowly transitioning from teaching into instructional design and learning development. So have I have had work as a teacher, language teacher, and intercultural communication trainer for several years. But 2017, I started working, creating blended and designing blended and learning experiences. And basically for adults. So I was having fun with it. And then my kid was born. And, I had this break. And after, like, when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do to come back to work, I thought I wanted to continue this path in instructional design and e-learning development. So I made a certification as a digital learning manager in 2019, which was great because it gave me a high-level overview of the digital learning world for corporate and adults. For this context. And then through this certification, I realized I really wanted to go with this development part, which I enjoy a lot. So that was my life. I was like trying to figure out my path and like to narrow down this whole e-learning and digital learning world, like for me. So that was my life before I got to meet you.
It's cool because you got a chance to explore a bit before you saw the breadth of it, which is kind of interesting, because I think a lot of people just fall into, what they know, but you got a chance to look at the whole picture, and then you decided there's a path there. That's something that interests you. Hey, that's interesting.
Yes, but I think because it is like a really big world, it can be very overwhelming. It's just a lot. When I think also when you come from education and are trying to transition to the corporate world, it can be very overwhelming because those are like really two different worlds at so many points. So, yeah.
That, when you said you were looking at all these things, there was, it is huge. And to be honest with you, a lot of us are generalists because it's so huge, right?
Yes. And that was also something very important to me. Like, I didn't want to be a generalist, like I know as an instructional designer, you also are like you have to wear too many hats, but still, like I wanted just like to focus on something that has also a meaning for me and where I have the feeling I'm good at. And yeah, so.
Cool. No, I like that. And I think a lot of us take forever to get there. So kudos to you for finding that faster and sooner than years and years of messing it up.
Well, it's funny because in this training, I had a trainer, as I said, I want to be an instructional designer and e-learning developer. And this person said like, oh, it's going to take you like years, like 5 years, like, and I remember saying to my team members at that time, to the people, because it was digital Also, it was a digital setting, so kind of virtual reality setting. So I didn't really sat in a group. So we were on this virtual world, and I just was having contact with these people. But I remember saying something like, "Give me 1 year," which was unrealistic. But like I know for many people, it can just like take a lot of time. And I think I just try to find myself in the middle of it and, like start, just like don't get overwhelmed or just like believe in the process, And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting because setting those constraints for yourself is probably because you said that sets a different mindset for you. So you look for different opportunities, I'm thinking, but.
Yeah, as I said, I think I was also being unrealistic, like saying, give me 1 year, but because then Corona came, so but yeah, I think I didn't hear to other voices, like just like I try to hear to my own voice, and yeah.
So tell me about that time, like as far as, what were you struggling with? Like, because obviously you were struggling with something because you wanted to join the program, but what was it that actually, what were some of the hurdles?
I think one of the biggest one is that I was like feeling alone. At the time I lived in Germany. So that's my very personal perception. I want to make that clear because I believe other people have experienced something different. But for me, I was feeling alone, and I wasn't really like finding these opportunities to find my own path in this German speaking environment. So when I realized that, I just tried to move to the English speaking scene, because of course it's bigger, and I started like Googling and just looking for information and so on, and resources, and that's how I came to your YouTube channel. And that's 2019. And yeah, so I think the main struggle for me at that time was that I was feeling alone, and kind of disoriented, like in my bubble, like I needed to get out from my bubble and just like look for other perspectives, like look for what people are doing in other places, like to find inspiration also for me. So yeah, I think that the feeling of being alone in your journey, sometimes it's good when, as I said before, right? Like I just listen to my own voices. That's maybe the good side of it. But on the other side, yeah, if you are lacking a community or people that can inspire you or something, like all these positive things, then it can just get difficult to keep on and move forward and so on. Yeah.
Okay. So now, was it like when you first got started in the interactive storytelling program, was it easy? What were some of the impressions that you had when you first got started? How did that go?
Well, I was like this emoji with the exploding head, but in a positive way. Like my mind was just being blown away the whole time, like watching the master class and getting inspired and like getting insights. And I was like, wow. And I was like learning a lot. That was positive. But because I started as Corona was a big issue worldwide, and my kid was less than 2 years at that time. Like it was difficult for me, like to keep on track, and at some point I couldn't continue, and that was kind of disappointing for myself, because it was something I couldn't help. Like, okay, we have this situation, and I have a kid at home, and like daycare wasn't working. Like I have to be a mom now, and but I was, on the other hand, I was very positive, because I knew I was to come back. So I knew it's just a matter of time, and then I am going to come back and reach my goals and just continue. So that, I think that's what was kind of difficult at the beginning, and also like, as I said, you really get inspiration, but sometimes, like, getting new insights and challenging your ideas or your mind or your perceptions and so on can be very difficult. Like you need a lot of time to digest sometimes, like and as I said, in this time it was just kind of difficult for me, like really to focus and to try to digest all this learning, right? So
yeah,
but it came to a good end.
absolutely. And it's interesting you said, because I know you even posted in the community saying, I got to go away now, but I will be back and I will finish what I started. And I think that's huge, because you set that goal for yourself and you did exactly that. So that's cool. So yeah, that's awesome. And you moved and all those things, like just so many things happened, right? So that's
yes.
So excited for you. No, that's fabulous. So, okay. All right. So take us back when you actually, you finally finished your project. It's wowed everybody in the community. We're all inspired by it. It's just awesome. I hope you're inspired by yourself. Now, tell me now, obviously it's taken, you've taken steps to get here. Tell me what it's like now when you've got this thing under your belt and the project is finished. Mm-hmm. What does that feel like?
It feels great. It feels awesome. I have also talked about it in our group calls, and it's really like I'm not at the same point at where I was 2020, or even as I was looking for information and inspiration, and I found your videos. Like it's been a learning journey, and as you said, like privately, many things have changed also. So I think, like, I gain a lot of confidence in my skills, but also in I really figured out what I want to be as a designer. Like, and that we talk about it at the beginning, right? Like, hey, what like to figure out what you want to do, and like to try to make this big world like just more just to get the grips of it, and for you, and know that that you are doing what you want to do. So that changed through going through this program, and like through the process, and I'm way more confident of what I want to do. And also because we moved to a different country, I decided to, because as I started 2017, I was freelancing. But this year, I decided I needed to have a position at a company that also allows me to adapt in this new country, and like to get to know the culture and get to know the people, and like really live here. And I started to apply, and I had some conversations, and I had interviews, and I think if I wouldn't have gone through the process in the program and with the community, my I wouldn't have been able to manage the conversations in the way I had, because I also knew what I was looking for. I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew it has to be a match from both sides, not just like from the company side, which is, there are always power dynamics in it, but yeah, I knew it, and so after having interviews and conversations with some companies, I found a good opportunity, and I'm starting a new job, a permanent position in a big. I live in Switzerland now, so in a big Swiss company in February next year, and I feel very happy because I just have the feeling that that's what I want to do. Like they saw the value, and I see that that's a place where I can like bring in all the things I've learned through the community, and be the kind of designer I want to be now. And I've learned that through the program and through the community, because again, like going back like 2 years ago, I was figuring out, and I don't have that figured out now, like 100%, because nobody has it, but I am on the right track for me, and that's like something that came through. I'm sure it came through the program.
That's fabulous to hear. That's fabulous to hear. And also because it's like almost like what you can offer, like your worth. So you come into this, I think those meetings just different. But I love how you said you gotta love what they're offering, right? Like it is a power dynamic, but you're coming in with expectations.
Yes, because of that. Because when you have figured out, what you want to do, when you believe in what you want to do and the way you want to do it, and you have expectations, and you just get into these conversations, and you are just confident, and also confident enough to set your expectations, and also to realize to yourself that if it doesn't feel like the right fit, then it isn't, and you just have to continue, and something is going to come when people see, when you are like honest, and you just present the way you want to be, and you just say people, so okay, that's how I see things, and that's what I believe in, and so on. Something is going to believe in it as well, and someone is going to take it or not,
Yeah, yeah. But it's upfront, and you're coming in with your cards laid out. This is what I'm great at. This is what I love to do. Can you help me do more of that? Right.
Yeah, and so that's what when I say that's what I believe in. It's not like, well, I believe in it, and it's my opinion, whether it's right or wrong. I don't mean that, but I mean like, well, these are the principles, like those are those are principles, and I have taken these principles for myself, and I want to do that, right? Like, I don't know, like, I don't want to have just information dumps and bullet points, and I don't know, like, I want to make people think, and think about themselves. So yeah.
Now, on that note, as far as, you said confidence is one of the things that being through the program gave you, but as far as like professional skills or development, were there things that you were like, okay, yeah, this is a tool I can put now in my toolkit? Were there any things like that?
Yes, I mean, as I at the beginning, as I came to the YouTube channel, and then I started to learn a lot of what of the work that you do, and I started to learn a lot of scenario based learning and storytelling, and I went through the program. And through my project and through this process of getting feedback, like, make yourself vulnerable and just like let people help you, because I think that's something important. You have to let people help you. It's not as easy as it sounds. Yeah, I think those are skills like I've gained also, like what's learning, what's the role of emotions, like really trying to talk to people's emotions, and what's the role of emotions in learning. And I'm reading a book that talks a lot about it, and it's like for many years we've thought that emotions, that like the cognitive and the emotional level are two different levels, but it comes out, you can't learn without emotion. Like we are emotions, and when you learn that, and you learn that nothing is going to work if you're not able to reach learners on an emotional level, then you are just kind of doing something, but maybe it's just a waste of time for you and for the people who have to go through this process. Like, you want to make people care, and you have to reach them on their needs and on the things they care about. And it's like the cycle is going to close if it works. And but you have to learn it. And as a designer, it's also a process. And I'm happy that I think now I'm pretty sure I've learned it now. Like so yeah, I think that's those are things that I've learned as a developer and as a designer now, after going through the masterclass and getting input, like just to keep learning myself and trying to understand better these topics. Yeah.
So if you could give advice to yourself when you first started, like now in retrospect, you're looking back, what advice would you give? And it's going to be basically the advice for people who are starting the program too.
I will say, like, you have to believe in the process, like, and be patient, and like, as a learning professional, you know that learning is a process. So it has to be a process for yourself as well. And just to believe, to trust the process, like to be patient, trust the process, and make yourself vulnerable, like open to get feedback, like open to, as I said, like let people help you, because that's the only way you are going to make the best out of it. If you are like, being afraid of sharing, like people, and I think that's something that I've learned also through the program and through the process, is that we usually don't want to share things until we believe people have nothing to say about it. Like we want to share your just perfect things. Like I want to get feedback, but just positive feedback, like just reinforcement. And so you wait and you wait and you are wasting time because you are struggling, and you are thinking too much and trying to figure it out on your own and so on. And I would say, don't waste time. Like just put yourself out there and let people help you, because they all have the interest of helping you. It's not like it's about you. If you let people help you, it's going to be about you, even if it's something that may hurt at the beginning, not in a negative way, but sometimes when you have to reframe things, it's not always a nice process, right? But the outcome is going to be great. The outcome is going to be positive. So I think that's what I would say.
Well, that's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. And there is a lot of, I think that's, there's a lot of like fear that you have to overcome in order to be,
yes,
right. To be able to take that stuff and then not, because these are your ideas. So you take it personally because you are the creative director behind these ideas. So you feel like it's about you, but it really isn't, right? Because everybody's there to just really help you. So, but that takes time. That's easy to say, but you got to be.
It's easy to say, right? Yeah. But and it takes time. That's what I say. Like, hey, be patient and just believe. Trust the process. Like.
Yeah.
Trust. Yes.
So if now, speaking of trust the process and also just believing in yourself. So tell us about your interactive story.
Yes. So my interactive story is called Speak or Sing. And it is about a young female professional who struggles with finding her way at work and just communicate assertively. And I think, I know, we know that's something many female professionals, young women struggle with at the beginning of their careers, because the world still has a lot of these traditional ideas and stereotypical ideas on how women and young women should behave. So it addresses this topic, and it works with female networks, because there are a lot of networks working and trying to help these young women, like to grab their seat at the table, and just to gain confidence and get rid of all these patterns, and this story supports, of course, the networks and also the young women in in reaching that goal and making young female professionals more confident and more assertive.
That's awesome. So at the end of like when somebody goes through your interactive story, what do you hope, like what's the problem that you hope that they're solved and they're walking away with that skill? What is it that you're trying to go for there?
To communicate your ideas with more confidence at work, like to know that you have something to offer. And I mean, young women have studied, have skill. They also have experience, you know, like I think that the problem is to solve is get rid of all these insecurities and ideas and just be confident and speak. And that's why it's called speak or sing. Like if you don't speak with confidence, you know, like you have a lot that is backing up your what you want to say, you know, like you are going to sing, like you are going to end up, you know, like, I don't know, being frustrated or unhappy or even depressive, you know, like it's like a big range of consequences, of real life consequences. So if you make the right decisions, you are going to experience a better professional life and a successful professional life. So I think that's it.
It's fun. Your interactive experiences. It's interesting because I think that, I mean, I know it's the goal is to have this young professional woman, right? You've put her through all these difficult situations. I love it. Very difficult decisions, I think, for a lot of people. Even if I think that anybody going through this who has a difficulty sharing their ideas and feeling like, you know, when you come into situations that there's expectations about how you are to behave, how you are to communicate your ideas. And I think a lot of that comes with, like, you bring that baggage with you, right? So for somebody to go through it and explore, what happens if I say what I think or push back? It's a fabulous, safe place to practice being maybe somebody a little bit different than you usually are. So,
or being yourself, your real self, right? Like, don't pretending to be someone you've been for a lot of time just to fit in.
Yeah.
So to see that it's okay to be who you want to be, you know, like not who people are expecting you to be. So yeah, I think the interactive story offers people. I mean, my character is a young woman, but this doesn't happen only to young women. Like, it happens to everybody. It can happen to everybody. So it offers, like you said, like a safe place just to take like to make these decisions, you know, and just to experience what if, you know, what is it like. And yeah, so I'm very happy. I'm very happy about it, and I've got very good feedback from many people. Like people are approaching me, like they are writing me LinkedIn messages and saying they went through the experience. And yeah, I am very happy with the outcome, but it was also a process for me, you know, like I learned, and I also learned through through this about the topic, and it was a learning experience for myself. Like creating this learning experience for other people was also a learning process for me. So
yeah, because
I'm very happy.
Yeah, you said I know that you didn't just come up with this. You actually you sourced experts, you sourced people. Like, tell us about that discovery process a little bit.
Yeah, I talked to young women working at different places, and with almost 3 years of experience, and I read a book about it, and I read a lot of articles, and through the development of the story, I was in contact with a confidence coach. So she gave me a lot of feedback also about the scenarios and the situations I was presenting. And all these situations came from the conversations with my young women, like I didn't I didn't come up with something. Like, it was outsourced from these experiences, but the way I wanted to present the feedback and the way I wanted to guide people was also improved through the conversations with this coach. So I think that's also what makes the story a real story, because it's based on real people, and it's based on real experiences. So it was also very fun that as I talked to all of them, and as I read the same, how can I say, like the same idea came every time, and it was, I wish I could have done something before. Like, I wish I would have done something, like I would have acted, because these young women, as I said, they had 3 years of experience working. So they were talking about also experiences in the past, like recent experiences, but still they've learned from these experiences. So I think that was also important. Like, they could reflect on the experience, and then also tell me if how they would have solved it, like after because many times they weren't able to solve it at that moment, and they were also very positive about the idea that these experiences that are common for many women, that telling these experiences and sharing these experiences with me will be helpful to younger people. Like, okay, they've gone through the process now, but there are many other people who haven't, and their experience and the way they frame it and the way they and I learn about the experience is going to help other people. That was also very insightful for me. So I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, sounds like a really rewarding process, because I mean, one of the things that's really cool about interactive stories is, like, the goal is always to solve some sort of a real problem, right? Like, not just create a toy, but actually create something where people find of value. So what's interesting too is like, it sounds like you sourced people, and we talk about this a lot, right? How you really have to find people who remember what it was like to struggle and are aware of those moments so that they can share them with you. And then, like you said, in the moment they couldn't fix it, but they thought about all the things they would have done, and then you could incorporate that into your story. And that's fantastic. So sourcing people that still remember the struggle is really important as well. So that's cool. You were able
Yes,
to do that.
yes. And I think that the key point was that they were like, okay, they had already started their careers, but they're still new, kind of new. They're still at the beginning, and they're still struggling. Like, we will also talk about how you want to, who and how you want to be, you know, like, and those ideas also came into the story and of Lina. That's the name of my character. So yes, it was really, it was a great experience. I'm really thankful to these women and for being willing to talk, like to open and talk to me about their struggles, because we already said it, it's not easy. Like, put yourself out there is never easy. So
yeah, no, that's really cool. But I think that also speaks volumes. You were persistent. You didn't give up. You kept on looking for people. So I think that's wonderful, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just going to find some expert. I'm just going to find some book and then come up with something. But you were like, no, I need people. I need real people with real struggles. So no, that's fantastic, because it makes, and it's interesting because we talk about that, like, you know, we get subject matter experts on our projects, but they're so far removed from that process. And you're still talking to people who are in the process, living it every day. And so that informs the decisions in your interactive story. Like, I'm sure most of them would be like, look through me, like, that could be me. That's actually, I could be that person. I could be that decision, because you got it from those people. And that authenticity, I think, makes it so much more powerful too. Just so cool.
yes.
That's awesome. So, okay. So as far as, okay. So now after we've talked about this, everybody's going to want to check out the story. I hope everybody does. It is,
I hope.
it is, you know, when you look at it, I think there's so many levels to it, which is, you know, you doing that research, you coming up with those situations. And then there's this whole other aspect, which is Holy Teresa, which is the visuals, the you know, the style of it, the pace of it, and the dialogue and everything that, you know, it's based on a true story, but then you took it and made it your own, which is, it's so fun. And it's cool because, did you know that you were, like, as far as like the visuals and the creative direction, is this something where you're like, you really just decided, you were like, I'm just going to hone this because it came through that? Talk about that a little bit.
Yes. I knew I have these skills, like, and that was, I think, also kind of this search process for myself. Like, I just wanted to find the right, how can I say, like, the right setting, or like the right place to put all these skills into practice, you know, because I'm really passionate about visual design, and it was very important for me, like, as I said, like the talking to people and this research process and creating this story. It was a lot of fun, and it was very important, because it was very important for me not just to came up with something, but like have it based on something real. But on the other hand, I was like really having fun imagining and thinking and like just creating and iterating the ideas and seeing how do I want to present this, you know, like how, and that was also a lot of fun. And it all, like, for me, what I try to do is that, you know, there's I saw your interview with Tim Slade from the Engagement Summit, and it was like, because I was talking to another developer like a week before about Marshall McLuhan, and you came with this quote, "The medium is the message." And for me, because I studied cultural studies and communication, so I knew him. And as you said it, for me was, yes, because that was the same thing I was talking about with this colleague, like how important visual design is and how important it is to have a concept, like everything has to support everything, because everything is a part of, like, it is like, you want to close this circle. And so the visual design was also very important because it also transports a message and supports the message of the story. And yes, the message you are trying to send with the story.
It's true. It's true. And you've done it. And it's so cool because you were like, from beginning to end, you got to own that process. So it's entirely your vision, right? Transported into visuals and sounds, and it's so much fun. You guys should check it out. Okay. Now, so this was a lot of fun. Now, if people want to connect with you, learn about your work, where should they go?
I think the best place to go through it will be LinkedIn. They should go to my LinkedIn profile, and I will be happy to connect with people and just hear if they went through this story, how it resonated with them, and get feedback on it, because it's a never-ending process, like I'm still looking forward to feedback and to knowing what can be improved, and just like to make things more effective.
I think most people will just be wowed in the beginning. So if you got feedback, great, but check it out. Take the time to go through it, because there's so many pieces in there that are just that are spectacular. So that's fantastic. And I'll put the link to connect with Teresa underneath the video, so you guys can check it out, or underneath the podcast if you're listening to this on the podcast. Teresa, this was so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us and inspiring everybody else to do the same.
Yeah, thank you very much. I am very, very, very happy to be part of this community. And that's one of the best things that had happened to me in the last time. And also having this story come to life is one of my highlights for this year. So
fabulous.
I am very happy.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, Anna.